I chose to ride Space Mountain. I chose to ride Space Mountain and do the other space-themed attractions at Walt Disney World, not because it was easy, but because it was the 55th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon mission, and that's the theme of this video. You're not going to want to miss this stellar Mickey's Round Table adventure. July 20th, 1969, mankind first set foot on another world.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This year, July 2024, marked the 55th anniversary of that famous moon mission.
Past the hour, liftoff on Apollo 11.
From the time I was a little kid, I absolutely loved space travel, mostly due to Snoopy here and Charlie Brown's second super book of questions and answers. This super book of questions and answers was all about space travel, and out of the 5 super books of questions and answers that I have, this one is the most worn out. The spine there is all actually fallen apart. I should be more careful with it. Love space travel. When I was a kid in elementary school, the very first space shuttle launch, they were going to show it on TV, and they brought everybody into the gymnasium, and there was a mission scrub or a delay or something of that nature. I was too upset to remember. Yeah, we had to go back to our classes and weren't able to watch it live on TV, and I cried. On my very first visit to Walt Disney World in 1988, the trip coincided with a space shuttle launch, STS-26. Recently, I also got to watch the launch of the Artemis 1 mission, an uncrewed mission of NASA's newest moon rocket. That was really cool to see. First time I've ever seen a nighttime launch. Anyway, love space travel, and for the anniversary of the moon landing, I decided, you know what, I can't make it out to the Kennedy Space Center, but I can make it to Disney World because I do that all the time. Why don't I do a video where I ride every single space-themed attraction there is at Walt Disney World? I started at Epcot, and Disney's newest, latest, greatest space-themed attraction, the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind roller coaster. You have to get a virtual queue for that. You have to go onto the phone in the morning and at 7 a.m. And so I did that, and I was able to get a virtual queue and get a spot, but it wasn't going to be until later in the day. But my reservation was for Epcot. So I started my day at Epcot and then made my way over to Hollywood Studios. When you go to Hollywood Studios, you can either go right or you can go left. If you go right, there's the Star Wars launch bay, and they've got a bunch of character meet and greets, and that's certainly space themed, but I was doing attractions. I wanted to do rides, and I just did a Star Wars Day video, actually on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. So it's like, okay, I don't want to duplicate, and yeah, I'm going to do rides, not necessarily character meet and greets. So I passed that by and headed on into Toy Story Land. And I just said that I wasn't going to do any character meet and greets, but I couldn't pass it up. I met with Buzz Lightyear, who was named after Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. So it's like, okay, I got to do this. It's the 55th anniversary of the launch of the Apollo 11 moon landing. So I started out my space day meeting with Buzz Lightyear before heading on over to the alien swirling saucers. Kind of a kid's ride, but it is a fun one nonetheless. I enjoy it when I go on it, even though it's, okay. If you watch my Toy Story Day video that I put out a while back, I wish they would have gone in a different direction with Toy Story Land, but it is what it is. So from there, I headed on over into Galaxy's Edge and the Star Wars area. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run has a single rider line. If you are there by yourself, if you don't mind being an engineer or possibly a gunner, you're usually an engineer when you do that. That's not a bad way to go, or if you want to split up your party. So I did that, saved some time, skipped the queue, and then you just get put right into another group. From there, I headed over to Rise of the Resistance, the better of the two rides at Galaxy's Edge. and they were testing a single rider line over there. Now that usually has a very long line, and I didn't want to eat up too much time doing it. And so I thought, okay, let me try this single rider line. It was interesting because you missed a pretty good chunk of the pre-show. There's the pre-show with Ray telling you your mission, and then you go aboard a shuttlecraft that takes you up and you get captured by the First Order. You skip all of that and you go straight into the hangar bay where all the stormtroopers are and everything. It saved a ton of time. If you've never ridden on Rise of the Resistance and they are offering that single rider line, it is tempting to save the time, but the pre-show that you're missing is very much a part of the ride, and I would say stay in the regular line. If you've ridden the ride before, you know what's there, you know what the setup is, and you want to save time and you don't mind splitting up from your party, or you're going by yourself, it is worth it to skip that chunk of the line and the pre-show and just go straight on into the ride and getting interrogated and escaping and all that fun stuff. Very fun, and again, I just did the Star Wars Day video here not too long ago, so didn't want to spend a lot of time doing it. And I'm probably spending more time on this video talking about it right now, because you can just go watch that other video. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, go check out those other ones. I'm supposed to wait till the end before I say that, but I'm going to do it right here in the middle because, you know, it's relevant. So from there, I headed to the Star Tours. Another Star Wars themed attraction there at Hollywood Studios, and same thing, I covered it a little bit more in depth on that other video. It's fun. I get a little bit queasy on that. I get a little, any kind of motion control ride, I tend to do that. It's just me. I guess I never could have been an astronaut in real life, and this is the closest thing I'll ever get to actually doing that. So I did keep checking my virtual queue for the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was getting closer. There was an estimated time of when it would be, 1:30, something like that, somewhere in there. It was off to Epcot, back to Epcot, and my boarding group hadn't been called yet, so I thought, okay, what's there to do here that's space themed that's not Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, there's Spaceship Earth. Like I said, the Star Tours, it makes me a little queasy, so I didn't want to do anything too intense. Spaceship Earth, that was the ticket. Spaceship Earth is a fun attraction. It's an educational attraction, so I don't know if fun is the right word. It's an interesting attraction. It's a classic attraction. It's mellow and slow, and you don't get sick on it. I hope not, anyway. But so you ride that, and one of the very last scenes, towards the end, it's like the second or third from the last scene, is an actual, it's a family sitting around their living room watching the Apollo 11 moon landing. So that was certainly a fitting attraction to ride on for this particular day and for this particular adventure. And, you know, space is in the title of the attraction, so I had to do it. While I was on Spaceship Earth, then it came up on my app that, yes, your boarding group's been called. Head on over to Guardians of the Galaxy. So I did that straight away after getting off of Spaceship Earth. I'm not going to lie. I might withhold some information, but I'm not going to lie. No, this isn't the news. I do get queasy and sick on some rides. Some that you might think I would, I don't, and others that you shouldn't, maybe. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't think it's an extreme coaster, but I'm not sure because the way that the ride works, your vehicles spin. And I had only ridden it twice before, and both times I got sick. Got not physically sick, but didn't feel very good afterwards. But so I knew I was, I don't know, do I really want to do this? But I was going to do it for the video. Very cool queue and very cool pre-show. And there's like 2 pre-shows. And so I'm standing there and I'm watching the pre-show, and they tell you,
I must ask you to put away your Terran communication devices at this time. Recording of any type is strictly prohibited.
Oh, I guess I can't film or shoot video, because that was kind of the whole point of riding the ride, was to show the viewers at home the point of view of the thing, and then I'd never have to do it ever again. So I didn't really have to do the ride, but I did it anyway. But I can still show you my point of view. Yep, that's right. I had my eyes closed the whole time, literally. I'm never doing it ever again. Right next door, well, almost right next door, is Mission Space. Now, Mission Space, it's a neat idea for an attraction that I don't think they quite pulled off. You're basically an astronaut trainee, and so you're not going into space, but you are training for a space mission, and then you get put into a simulator.
Congratulations, team. You have been selected to train for a spectacular mission around
the simulator. This is the neat part. It spins, so you're in a centrifuge, so you know you get thrown back up against the wall a little bit. You can feel the G-forces of the launch. That's the cool part. And then you go through a pretend mission, and you have to push buttons and do things, which I don't know that pushing the buttons actually does anything for the ride. So it's got two sides. There's the orange side and then the green side. The orange side is the more intense of the two sides, and I believe that's a mission to Mars, or I don't know. I never do the orange side. I might have done it at one time in my life, but I'm probably blacked out and don't remember it. So I always do the green side, which is just you go up and you go one orbit around the Earth, and then you come back down. Right next door, like literally right next door to Mission Space, is the relatively new restaurant, Space 220. 220 miles is where space begins, where scientists say, yep, this is it. I did not do it on this particular trip, just because I had other plans to eat elsewhere, didn't want to spend the money, etc., etc. And I went last year. I went on my birthday last year, and then I've got a twin brother, so I had the Gemini burger, and it was okay. I think you're paying more for the ambiance, but I enjoyed it, and the space theming is really, really cool. You take a space elevator, so there's basically it's a tower that goes all the way up to the space station, up into orbit, geosynchronous orbit, I would imagine, and then rather than taking a rocket, you go up and you're pulled up by cables or whatnot, and then this is this concept that's been around for years, and here they simulated it. I think it's a simulation. It feels real because you're looking out the window and getting closer and closer to space, and you look down and Earth is going away, and you see Florida down there and the whole thing. Like I said, I didn't do that on this trip, on this particular day, on this particular adventure. From there, then I headed on over to Magic Kingdom. Yes, I skipped Animal Kingdom, and you're saying to yourself, some of you anyway, well, what about Pandora? That's in space. You go up into space to go to Pandora. But so because my adventure, my rules, because those attractions, and I did think about this. Don't think I didn't think about this and stay awake at night and wake up in cold sweats thinking. But anyway, because those attractions don't take place in space, they take place on an alien world, I thought, okay, I'm not going to include those on this particular adventure. Maybe someday. So I got to Magic Kingdom, and I headed straight for Tomorrowland. That's where all the space attractions are at Magic Kingdom. And there was weather approaching. So whenever there's weather, whenever there's lightning, any attraction at Walt Disney World, it's probably any attraction at any amusement park in the world, the safe ones anyway, if there's lightning, they'll shut down outdoor attractions, outdoor food carts, you name it. If it's outside, they shut it down until the weather clears. And I thought, okay, of the 3 attractions in Magic Kingdom that are space themed, one of them is outdoors. Let me get that out of the way first. So I, try and beat the weather. So I headed over to the Astro Orbiter, and it's not usually a very long line, but the attraction doesn't have a huge capacity either. So so that kind of works against it. But so I'm waiting in line, and then you have to go up in an elevator, which is kind of neat because it's like going up in the elevator and the gantry and everything on a real space mission. And you go out there, and I think the next ride was what I was going to be getting on it. And then all of a sudden, all right, we're going to have everybody go back downstairs because, yep, there's weather approaching. And I'd been watching on my radar. I was like, oh, yeah, there is. So rather than heading straight to Space Mountain and doing that, that was next on the agenda. I thought, no, I'm getting a little bit hungry, you know, because I didn't eat at Space 220 because, you know, I didn't want to spend the money and I did it last year. And rewind the video, you can watch and see those excuses there. So I headed down to Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe. Just got something simple. I think it was chicken, wasn't nuggets, it was the chicken fingers, strips, whatever. And headed down into the main dining area to watch Sunny Eclipse.
Thank you, you're too kind. Hey, Cosmic Ray, if you're out there, I was only kidding about the raise, man. Actually, folks, Ray pays me weekly. Very weekly.
Yeah, I do enjoy the show and the corny jokes and the whole thing. The problem with Sunny Eclipse is in that room, nobody's paying attention, or very few people. In order to hear him, you have to be up towards the front.
Oh, bright little star, though I'm light years away from now, I can't help but to feel.
I don't think the speakers are even on in the back of the room. And personally, I'd retheme it. I retheme the whole restaurant to a Buzz Lightyear Star Command headquarters, commissary, or something like that. And then here's the... You make it Sunny Eclipse and the Star Command Band, so you give them some backup singers and backup band and whatnot. Make it a little more fun, plus the experience. So after eating, which maybe I should have ate after I went on a roller coaster. Huh. Anyway, I headed over to Space Mountain and got in line, and there's a little bit of a wait because when the park is down for weather, when they're 101, as they say in the business, all the indoor attractions, they still operate normally, so all the lines get a little bit longer because they can't go on the People Mover or Astro Orbiter like I was doing and whatnot. And so the lines do get a little bit longer. And if you're ever in, I suppose not just Disney parks, but any parks, and you're in line and you're behind a family and they got little kids and they're bouncing all over the place and hanging on things and they're fighting and they're doing all this stuff. Well, I didn't have that, so that was nice, but I had something worse. Teenagers. So, yeah. Anyway, so I got to go on Space Mountain. I think, so I don't have a lot of footage here of Space Mountain because you can't really get much because it is pitch black. You can get some going through that tunnel. So by the time I got off of Space Mountain, the weather had cleared and the Astro Orbiter reopened, but so I did get to ride the ride. And what's weird is at the end, it feels like it speeds up. It feels fast anyway, just because you're so high and you're in this little rocket pod and the whole thing. Yeah, see, like I was talking earlier, like Star Tours, it's a simulator, and I'll feel sick and queasy, but this doesn't make me sick. You'd think it would. Anyway, it's a fun ride. It's a fun, hey, Space Mountain is long. Let's go on the Astro Orbiter, kill some time. If you want something more thrilling than the People Mover. So I was down to my last space-themed attraction at Walt Disney World. I started with Buzz Lightyear. I was going to finish with Buzz Lightyear. I headed over to Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin.
Through infinity and beyond.
You go in and you get laser guns, and you ride through the ride, and there's targets. And you shoot the little Z's for Zurg, you know, evil Emperor Zurg, the sworn enemy of Buzz Lightyear, even though he is his father. And anyway, so then you rack up points, and then you can compare your score against the party that you're riding with. I was by myself, so I won, but it's fun. And then, of course, I was filming while I was doing the whole thing, too. So that concluded my space-themed attraction day at Walt Disney World. And you're probably saying to yourself, hey, mister, I really like space. I cried when I didn't get to see the space shuttle launch. Why didn't you go to the Kennedy Space Center for the 55th anniversary of the Apollo moon mission? Okay, yeah, well, Disney is closer, and I didn't want to. And no, actually, the real reason is, well, you've heard the conspiracy theory, probably, that we didn't really land on the moon. Stanley Kubrick faked the whole thing at Area 51 in a hangar there. Well, that's not entirely true. Stanley Kubrick didn't do it in Area 51. Walt Disney did it at the studio in Burbank. Hear me out here. This is good. The Apollo 11 moon launch, rocket launch, launched from Florida, right? Just down the road from Walt Disney World, also in Florida, named for, now this is not a coincidence, Walt Disney World is named for Walt Disney. That's a fact, you can look it up. So Walt Disney World opened in 1971. The Apollo moon mission launched and supposedly landed on the moon in 1969. That's 2 years apart. Well, half of 2 is 1. Half of 22 is 11. It was the Apollo 11 mission. That's not a coincidence. And then you look at the other, this is just freaky weird. Disneyland, also named for Walt Disney, opened up in 1955. Walt Disney died in 1966, 11 years afterwards. They named Apollo 11 in honor of Walt Disney, or decided that that was the one that was going to land on the moon, because he's the guy that secretly filmed it at his studio. There's Disneyland TV programs where they had Werner von Braun actually talking about landing on the moon.
Today, on an organized and well-supported space program, I believe a practical passenger rocket could be built and tested within 10 years.
That's not a coincidence either. So yeah, they faked the moon landing at the studio in Burbank. Follow me here. The Disney Studios in Burbank was the third Disney studio. They had one on Kingswell Avenue in Los Angeles, Hyperion Avenue, and then the one in Burbank. There were 3 astronauts on the Apollo 11 moon mission. Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong, don't tell me that's not a made-up name, and Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin, who Buzz Lightyear is named after, made a movie made by Pixar, but released by Disney, distributed by Disney, the Walt Disney Company. So, yeah, so you got 3 astronauts. It was the third studio, and it all makes sense. You can't deny it. The moon landing was not faked by Stanley Kubrick at Area 51 at a hangar somewhere. It was faked by Walt Disney, or the Walt Disney Studio in Burbank, California. I did get to go out there a few weeks ago, a month ago or so, so I didn't get to go out to the Burbank studio for the Apollo 11 landing anniversary, but so I did the next best thing and went to Walt Disney World and did this. So I don't know if that makes any sense or not. It has to. No other plausible explanation or that's it for this Mickey's Roundtable adventure. I'm going to have to go think this through. Until next time, we'll see you real soon. To infinity and beyond.